My father missed my commencement for his fiancée's Napa getaway. So I strode into his wedding in my cap, grabbed Mike, and outed his 2-year affair to 150 guests. It had only been 8 months since Mom died. I was 14, still reeling, when my dad introduced me to Chloe. She was 29, closer to my age than his, and he practically gushed about how she made him feel youthful again. It felt like a slap in the face. It felt like I reminded him of Mom, of grief, and Chloe. Chloe didn't. That's how it started. Slowly, insidiously. Date nights turned into entire weekends away. Family dinners, once a sacred tradition, just stopped happening. By my junior year, I was eating alone most nights, while Dad and Chloe were off at wine tastings or couples yoga. His excuse? You're an adult now. No need for me to hover. My complaints were brushed aside, my feelings invisible. Then came my high school graduation. This was it. The culmination of years of hard work. I reminded him constantly, monthly, sent calendar invites, even sticky notes on his bathroom mirror. Dad, 3 p.m., June 12th, you promised to be there. He'd nod, check his phone, and say, I wouldn't miss it for the world. But Chloe's performance tickets had already kept him from my college acceptance, my scholarship interview, even my 17th birthday dinner. So, for days before graduation, when Chloe announced they had a surprise weekend trip to Napa, my heart just sank. He apologized, of course, a flimsy, it's non-refundable. Chloe worked so hard on it. He told me, walk across the stage. We'll celebrate when you get back. Celebrate what, exactly? That day, as they called my name, I scanned the auditorium, desperate for his face. Instead, I saw my mom's parents, tears streaming down their faces, proud despite his absence. My aunt had driven 3.5 hours. My Seattle relatives flew in. But that middle seat, the one I saved just for him, it was empty. Later, while I sat alone in our kitchen, eating grocery store cake, his Instagram story popped up. There he was, Chloe by his side, clinking champagne glasses in a hot tub, miles away, completely oblivious to the hollow ache in my chest. 3 months later, they got engaged. I was supposed to be happy, right? Wedding planning took over our lives. Chloe asked me to be a bridesmaid, an olive branch, I guess, and then picked out this $375 dress that needed all these custom alterations. When I dared to question the price, Dad just waved it off, saying, family supports family. Funny, because when I needed help with college application fees, suddenly he was saving for the honeymoon. Their wedding. It was lavish. Expensive cardstock invitations, 180 guests, an oceanside venue, a live band, everything I had ever dreamed of for my future wedding. The irony was a bitter pill to swallow. A week before the big day, I told Dad I wasn't coming. You missed my most crucial day for her, I told him, and now I'm returning the favor. He absolutely lost it. He called me selfish, ungrateful, accused me of trying to spoil his happiness. Chloe, of course, cried about toxic energy and toxic family members. But despite all their drama, I showed up. Oh, I showed up. As the officiant asked that fateful question, does anyone here object? I started walking. Not as a bridesmaid, but in my full graduation gown and cap. Down the aisle I went, past all those stunned faces, right up to Dad. I handed him my graduation program, the empty seat where he should have been circled in angry red. Then I gently placed Mom's wedding ring on his chair. She would have been here, I said, my voice cutting through the silence. The room went absolutely still. Every eye was on us. What they didn't know yet was the envelope I'd mailed to every single guest that morning. It contained screenshots. Screenshots of my dad's texts to Chloe during my graduation ceremony. Texts like, thank God we escaped that boring ceremony. Can you imagine 2 hours of teenage speeches? And another, your daughter's graduation would have been absolute torture. The kicker? Chloe didn't have a daughter. He'd been texting the wrong number. It was his assistant's. A deafening quiet swallowed the room. Dad's face was blank, clutching my graduation program like a foreign object. Chloe, with her perfectly coordinated eyebrows, just looked bewildered. The officiant cleared his throat clumsily, completely lost. Chloe's voice, sharp and trembling, finally broke through. What are you talking about? What assistant? The white flowers in her bouquet shook. That's when I played the voicemail. Dad's voice, booming, echoing off the luxurious venue's towering ceilings and ocean view windows. Lauren, a slight cough. I can't stop thinking about last night. Chloe's staying at her mother's this weekend. Come over Friday. I'll leave the side door unlocked. The gasp from 180 guests was almost enough to justify that $375 bridesmaid dress. Almost. Chloe's perfectly manicured nails scraped my palm as she snatched my phone. Her face cycled through surprise, comprehension, then pure, unadulterated wrath as she replayed it 3 times. Your helper, Lauren, I clarified, 23 years old, whom you hired 7 months ago. Dad lunged for the phone. Miss Chloe, this is out of context. She's trying to sabotage. Context? I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. While you were supposedly working late, you were with her. She had the company credit card for half your work trips. His quiet voice, the one I knew so well, the dangerous one that always ended discussions, cut in enough. That was the same tone he used when I questioned Chloe moving in so soon after Mom died, the tone that shut down any talk of him actually raising me. But I wasn't 14 anymore, scared and heartbroken and desperate for his attention. No, I clarified, my voice unwavering. Not nearly enough. From beneath my graduation robe, I pulled out a thick packet. For months of Dad's company accounts, receipts, hotel bookings, restaurant tabs, all filed for reimbursement, with Lauren listed as his guest. I'd snatched them from his home office 18 days ago, while he and Chloe were off getting massages. December 7th, I announced, Ritz-Carlton. 2 adjoining rooms. The weekend Chloe got food poisoning on your anniversary trip. You weren't in Portland for a conference, Dad. You were in San Diego. As I walked down the aisle, passing papers to the front row guests, I continued, January 19th, the weekend Chloe thought you were visiting your college roommate? You were in Vegas. Lauren even Instagrammed hotel lobby photos, tagging the exact spot. Chloe was now frantically swiping her phone, pulling up Lauren's social media, her hands shaking uncontrollably. February 11th, I pressed on, my voice steady. The weekend you supposedly attended Tyler's bachelor party in Seattle. Dinner at Maestro's. A $412 wine pairing. Lauren photographed the wine you ordered. Same restaurant, same window table, same night. I paused, letting it sink in. That was the night an unexpected client meal prevented you from celebrating my 17th birthday. My aunt, who had driven 3.5 hours for my graduation and sat with me through the whole sad reception, finally stood up, disgusted. Michael, is it true? For a second, just a flicker, I thought he might confess that the man who read me bedtime stories and taught me to ride a bike would emerge. Instead, he just pointed at me. Get out. You're not welcome. You're always jealous of Chloe, trying to separate us. Mom would be embarrassed. That last word hit me like a physical blow. Mom. My voice cracked. Don't mention Mom. That was the final straw. Chloe's pristine white roses scattered across the aisle as her bouquet slipped from her trembling hands. We're done, she declared, her voice raw. The wedding is off. I'm leaving. She spun to face Dad, mascara streaking her face. Sleep at Lauren's tonight because I'm changing the locks. Her $2,800 dress rustled as she stormed past me, her bridesmaids scrambling after her, a mix of sympathy and aggression on their faces. The men just stood there, frozen, unsure whether to console Dad or follow the bride. As I turned to leave, Dad grabbed my arm. You ruined everything, he hissed, his eyes burning. Everything. Are you happy now? I simply looked at his hand, then into his eyes. You wrecked it. I just made sure everyone could see. I walked back down the aisle, past the gaping guests, the expensive flowers, the string quartet that had abruptly stopped playing. In the parking lot, Grandma was waiting, tears streaming down her face. She pulled me into a tight hug, smelling like roses. Your mother would be so proud, she whispered. So proud. We drove to their house, the home where Mom grew up, where I'd spent every holiday before she got sick. Grandpa brewed coffee, and I sat at their kitchen table in my graduation gown, spilling everything. The missed events, the loneliness, Dad slowly erasing Mom from our house, from his life. I told them about Lauren, the assistant I'd briefly met when I used Dad's laptop to print college essays. I never intended to expose his affair. I just wanted him to feel what it was like to be ignored, to be unaccompanied. But once I found those texts, those receipts, and realized he'd lied to Chloe too, he made his choices. Grandpa, his voice firm, said, "Today, you were brave." But I didn't feel brave. I felt hollow. For months of lies, 7 months of anguish, 17 years of trying to be his daughter instead of a burden, it had just left me empty. My phone started buzzing, text after text. Unknown wedding guests checking if I was okay. Other relatives saying I'd crossed a line. Then, one from my cousin in Seattle, "You're my hero." And then, Chloe, "I need to chat. Can we meet tomorrow?" I stared at the message, wondering. Why? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then reappeared. I believe we both deserved more than him. The next morning, Chloe chose a neutral coffee shop, 15 minutes from our houses. I got there early, ordered a black coffee I didn't want, and took a corner table, my hands trembling slightly. I almost expected her to walk in with Dad, to tell me it all was a mistake. They'd worked it out, and I wasn't welcome anymore. But she arrived alone, hair in a ponytail, no makeup. She looked younger, without all the wedding stress, closer to 29. She got a latte, wrapped her hands around it for warmth, and simply said, "I left him. Moved my stuff out yesterday while he was at work. My brother helped." I just nodded, unsure what to say. "I'm sorry," I started. "Don't be," she said, wincing as she took a sip of her hot latte. "So, I called Lauren last night," she explained. "We talked for 90 minutes. Lauren hadn't even known Dad was engaged. He told her he was separated, that I was in college, and the wedding band was just for show at work. He'd convinced her. Why wouldn't she believe him? He's charming, successful, and when he wants to be, emotionally available." Chloe let out a hollow laugh. I believed him too. When we met, he told me his marriage had been dead for years. Said your mom was chilly, and they only stayed together for you. My grip on my coffee cup tightened. A lie. Just a blatant lie. Mom adored him. She loved him even when cancer made her harsh and afraid. "Now I know," Chloe said, pulling up a photo on her phone. "Lauren sent me this. Texts between Dad and Lauren from 7 months ago. My fiancé doesn't get me. So young and immature. I erred in getting engaged." And another, "You're the only one who really sees me." He probably said the same about Mom. He'd probably say the same about Chloe to the next person. "He's 44, I whispered. "You're 29. I'm 17. Lauren's 23. See the pattern?" Chloe started to cry. I felt special. Like we had something real. He made me feel alive, like I was everything. She laughed through her tears, a harsh, self-deprecating sound. He manipulated me. God, I sound pathetic. I surprised myself by reaching across the table and gently touching her hand. "He does that," I said softly. "He makes you feel like the problem when things go wrong, like you're asking for too much when you just want basic respect." 2 women, who had both loved the same man, sat there in silence, having found out too late that he simply couldn't love back. "I'm so sorry," Chloe finally said, wiping her eyes and pulling her hand back. "For everything. The timing, the graduation, the bridesmaid outfit. For not seeing what he was doing to you. I was too busy being young and in love and living a luxurious life to notice the neglected child in the house. I heard you eating dinner alone. I saw you waiting for him on your birthday. I told myself I shouldn't interfere. The truth stung, but it was pure, unlike Dad's endless falsehoods." "What now?" I asked. "I'm moving back to Portland," she said. "My old roommate says her couch is available until I find a place. Start over. Probably get therapy to figure out why I thought dating a man almost 17 years older would end well." She managed a small, sad grin. I told her I was starting college in September, full scholarship at the state university. I'd planned to commute from home, but now, home doesn't feel like home anymore, I admitted. Not in a while. We finished our coffees, swapped numbers, and agreed to stay in touch. I doubted we would. Sometimes trauma bonds people, but after the catastrophe, they just drift away. Still, as Chloe drove away in her packed car, I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding. Dad called me 39 times in 2 days, but I stayed silent. On day 5, he showed up at my grandparents' door, banging until Grandpa threatened to call the police. "I need to talk to my daughter," he yelled through the door. Grandpa calmly replied, "Your daughter doesn't want to talk to you." Dad, predictably, started with, "She's 17, still my child, I have rights." Grandpa's response was ice cold. "You gave up those rights when you chose your affair above her graduation. Leave before I call the sheriff." Enraged, Dad slashed Grandpa's mailbox with his car keys before speeding off. His petty, nasty behavior was so typical when he didn't get his way. Mom used to joke he had toddler-like emotional management when things went wrong. I finally understood what she meant. Within 36 hours, someone, not me, posted my wedding screenshots on Facebook, tagging Dad's business associates, golf friends, and even his company page. The comments were brutal. Employee cheating on his fiancée? Classy. This dad spent the weekend with his mistress, missing his daughter's graduation? Disgusting. Fire him. Soon, Dad was put on administrative leave while his company investigated his personal use of corporate finances. Dating a subordinate and charging dinners to the company card? That was definitely frowned upon. Lauren quit, moved to Denver, and blocked him everywhere. Chloe, demanding the return of her grandmother's engagement ring, informed him he'd presented it under false pretenses. The legal fees alone would cost him thousands. I watched his life crumble from my grandparents' guest room, surprisingly devoid of emotion. Maybe I should have felt guilty, regretted going nuclear. But every time doubt crept in, I remembered sitting alone on my 17th birthday, staring at my phone, waiting for a call that never came. My aunt set up lunch with my Seattle cousin, Brooke, who'd fled home at 20 to escape her parents' arranged marriage scheme. Over sandwiches, Brooke just looked at me. "You did the right thing," she said. "Everyone else is saying you went too far." "Shut up, everyone," she added, gesturing with a carrot stick at me. He was given chances. Your message was clear. Limits were set. He ignored everything. It wasn't revenge. There's a difference. Then, she softened slightly, like revenge, good. It should. He should feel degraded, neglected, unimportant, just like you. Brooke added, "I'm not claiming you'll love this forever. You may have conflicting feelings, but don't let anyone tell you were wrong for standing up for yourself." I just nodded, pushing lettuce around on my plate. Chloe apologized, I mentioned. Really? She regretted not noticing what he was doing to me and said she should have seen it. So big of her. Brooke thought about it. Will you pardon her? No idea. Maybe she was a victim too. He lied to her about Mom, Lauren, and probably a dozen other things. But whether she realized it or not, she let him disregard you. I just ate my lunch without tasting it. The weeks before college were strange. I packed my dorm essentials at my grandparents' house, shopped for bedding with Grandma, registered for classes, and filled out housing forms, all without Dad's help. Mom and I used to talk about college. She studied English at State U, joined the creative writing club. You'll love it, she'd said on a good day after chemo. The campus has this beautiful library with tall windows. An old album at my grandparents' house showed her college photos. Mom at 20, laughing in high-waisted jeans, beaming at graduation, books under her arm on the library steps. She was so happy there, Grandma said, looking over my shoulder. Those were good years for her. Your father was kind and attentive when they first met. He wrote her poems, sent her flowers for no reason. Your mom thought she'd won the lottery. What changed? Grandma sighed. Life, I suppose. Stress. He got promoted, worked longer hours. When you were born, he seemed to resent the attention you needed, like he was competing with a baby. Your mom tried therapy, date nights, church counseling, but nothing worked. By the time she got sick, they were roommates. He told people their marriage was dead for years. That mom was cold, I said. Grandma's face hardened. Your mother was the warmest person I knew. Even dying, she made you feel loved. She squeezed my hand. Don't let him rewrite history or make her into someone she wasn't to justify his choices. I left for college on a humid September morning. Grandpa loaded my boxes into his truck while Grandma fussed over my first aid kit and socks. The drive took 80 minutes and Grandpa helped me move into my tiny dorm room. My aunt hugged me tight. Call if you need anything, even just to talk. Brooke added, don't take crap from your roommate. Grandpa, gruffly, hugged me and said, you'll do great things here. Your mom knew it. After he left, I cried on my narrow dorm bed, surrounded by boxes and the unfamiliar smell of industrial cleaning products. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Dad. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed my life, my career, everything I built. I hope college is worth losing your father over. I blocked his number and unplugged my phone. Megan, my upstate biology major roommate, arrived the next day. Do you want to hang your mom's photos on that side of the room? Or by the window? We clicked immediately, bonding over our hatred of small talk and love of bad reality TV. I joined the creative writing club, just like Mom. The first meeting was in her library, under those tall windows. I sat in a corner, notebook in hand, listening to other students and felt her hand on my shoulder. My creative writing professor, Dr. Caroline Hayes, an accomplished novelist with silver hair and sharp eyes, read my first essay on loss and betrayal. She asked me to stay after class. This is raw, she said, tapping my pages. Powerful. Have you considered expanding it? I mumbled, it's just something that happened to me. That's where the best writing comes from, she replied. Think about it. You have a voice. Don't waste it. I thought about it. Between classes, study sessions, and learning to do my own laundry, I wrote. About Mom's death, Dad's abandonment, Lauren, the wedding that wasn't, graduation day and empty seats, the moment I realized I couldn't count on him. In October, with Dr. Hayes' help, I finished a 4,500-word essay called The Empty Chair. She warned me most personal narrative submissions were rejected, but 17 days later, I received an email. We'd love to publish your piece in our winter issue. The essay was published in December and shared 170 times on social media. People commented about their own absent parents, broken families, moments of standing up. A few literary agents asked for more material. One wanted to discuss a book deal. Dad found the essay 2 days after publication and created a new email address to contact me, bypassing my block. You made me look like a monster, he wrote. You exposed our private business to the world. You humiliated me in front of clients, friends, and everyone I know. Lawyers say I may have defamation grounds. Instead of responding, I forwarded it to Dr. Hayes, who forwarded it to the university's legal department. They sent Dad a cease and desist letter explaining that truth is an absolute defense against defamation and further contact would result in a restraining order. He stopped emailing. By spring semester, The Empty Chair had been read over 85,000 times. A podcast about estranged families interviewed me. A women's magazine asked me to write a follow-up about college without parental support. The book agent convinced me to outline a memoir. I was a writer, a student, building something new, and it felt strange in the best way. Megan and I hosted movie nights. I edited the campus literary magazine, went to parties, made friends, and stayed up too late talking about philosophy and bad poetry. Grandma sent care packages every 3 weeks with cookies and notes. Grandpa called every Sunday. My aunt took Megan and me out to dinner for Parents' Weekend, pretending not to notice when I cried during dessert. Brooke flew in for my birthday in February with cupcakes and a card signed by half my family. We spent the weekend exploring the city, eating too much and not talking about Dad. You seem different, Brooke said, lighter. After a pause, I admitted, I don't think about him as much. Sounds good and healthy, she replied. Occasionally, I'll get angry and burn over something he said or did. Brooke bumped my shoulder. But you're doing it, which matters. Healing isn't linear. Natalie, my book agent, called in May. 2 publishers are interested. They want the full proposal by June. Could you prepare something? What do they want? I asked. Your tale. All of it. How you rebuilt after grief, neglect, the wedding, the aftermath. People want stories about choosing yourself and escaping toxic families. Yours is real. Grandma brought me tea and sandwiches while I typed at the kitchen table during spring break. Grandpa proofread chapters, giving me surprisingly good editorial notes. This section drags, or more detail here, make us feel it. 2 publishers made offers. We chose the one with the biggest advance, $68,000 split over 2 payments for 55,000 words about losing my mother, my father, and finding myself. This is more than Dad gave me my whole childhood, I remarked to Natalie. That's because you earned it, she raged. You shed blood for that book. I used part of the advance to pay back my grandparents for their support. They tried to refuse, but I insisted. The rest went into a savings account for future tuition and living expenses. For the first time, I wasn't worried about money. Finals came and went. I finished freshman year with a 3.8 GPA and 2 more published essays. Megan and I signed up to be roommates again, and Dr. Hayes invited me to be her teaching assistant in the fall. Summer brought shimmering asphalt heat, and I interned at a local magazine, writing features and learning layout design. Chloe texted me in early July. We texted occasionally throughout the year, mostly surface-level check-ins, but this message was longer. I saw your essay. I'm proud of you. Months later, I was at Chloe's wedding. Her fiancé, Ethan, a 33-year-old teacher, had kind eyes and a gentle laugh. He clearly loved her. He touched the small of her back, listened when she talked, just simply looked at her. Thank you for coming, Chloe said at the reception. I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't sure either, I admitted. You deserve happiness. Real happiness. Not the replica Dad sold you. She drank champagne. He called me 6 weeks ago, wanting to meet, to discuss what happened. Did you? I asked, my stomach tightening. No, she said. He's dating someone new, apparently. Gym worker. She's 26. Is she? I asked. Yep. Lauren warned her. Sent her screenshots of his old messages, told her everything. She blocked him immediately. I laughed, surprised. Good for Lauren. By the way, Chloe added, Lauren's doing really well. Got promoted to senior coordinator at a Denver tech company. Posted on LinkedIn with a caption about knowing your worth and leaving toxic situations. We watched Ethan dance with his mother, his joy contagious. Are you likely to speak to him again? Chloe softly asked, meaning my dad. No idea. Possibly someday, if he apologized and meant it. Not holding my breath. What does a real apology look like? She pressed. I considered it. Accountability. Not just, I'm sorry you're hurt, but I'm sorry I missed your graduation. I chose my affair over being your parent and let you down. You don't think he can change? Probably not. Chloe squeezed my hand. You'll be fine. You are. She was right. I was okay. More than okay. I was building a life Dad couldn't ruin or diminish, rather than waiting for him to show up, notice me, or care. Dr. Hayes read the final draft of my memoir and gave me structure and pacing feedback. Natalie, my agent, encouraged me to dig deeper, to not let Dad off the hook with vague language. The memoir was due to my publisher in September. This section where he misses your birthday, she said over the phone. You write that he couldn't make it. That's passive. His decision was to fail. He chose wine tasting with his mistress over his daughter. Say it. I rewrote it, sharpened, clarified, and honestized it, removing any protective instinct for Dad's reputation. 2 weeks after the publisher received the manuscript, on September 21st, they sent the cover design, my graduation cap and gown on a white background, the title in bold black letters, The Empty Chair, a memoir of loss, betrayal, and learning to save yourself. 5 months to wait, second guess, and wonder if I was making a mistake before publication in April. Every time doubt crept in, I remembered why I'd written it. Not just for revenge, though that was a side benefit, but for every kid who'd been ignored, forgotten, or pushed aside by a parent who couldn't be bothered to show up. Megan and I moved into a larger dorm room for sophomore year, and I started teaching freshman composition discussion sections with Dr. Hayes. My magazine internship turned into a paying job, writing a monthly column about student life. Ryan, a sweet philosophy student, was too focused on his pre-med studies to date me. We parted amicably, stayed friends, and still grabbed coffee between classes. Classes, writing, work, friends, movie nights, study groups, and terrible dining hall food became a steady rhythm of growing up. Dad tried to reconnect with me again in October, this time via LinkedIn. A professional message, asking to discuss our relationship maturely. I stared at it for a while before blocking him there too. I spent Christmas with my aunt and Brooke at my grandparents' house, cooking too much, watching old movies, and exchanging modest gifts. Grandma gave me Mom's wedding pearl necklace. "She wanted you to have this when you were ready," Grandma said, tying it around my neck. I wore it every day after that, a reminder of the parent who loved me unconditionally, showed up even when it was hard, and chose me every day until she couldn't. In January, the galley proofs of my memoir arrived. Seeing my words in print made everything real. I did publisher marketing interviews, promo videos, and guest posts on estrangement and healing blogs. The publisher organized a small book tour in 4 cities, mostly independent bookstores and college campuses, starting 2 weeks after publication at a bookstore 2 blocks from campus. At the first event, Dr. Hayes introduced me to a crowd of 50. I read the chapter about graduation day, the empty seat, and the grocery store cake. The room was silent, except for a sniffler in the back row. A 40-year-old woman asked how I had the courage to break up with Dad. A college student asked if I regretted it. A mother asked how she could prevent her daughter from feeling like I did. I said, just show up. Even when it's inconvenient. Especially then. Your presence matters more than you think. A starred review from Publishers Weekly, a People magazine feature on dysfunctional families, and a morning show segment on generational neglect boosted book sales. Natalie was surprised when the debut memoir by an unknown author reached number 9 on the bestseller list in week 2. The publisher ordered a second printing. Dad called me about the book in May, leaving a voicemail on my grandparents' landline, his only number I couldn't block. "He's threatening to sue," Grandpa said. "Says you've defamed him, destroyed his reputation, cost him business opportunities." "Can he legally do that?" "No," I replied. "My publisher's lawyers proofread everything." Grandpa paused. "He's angry and embarrassed. Country club members read it. His boss read it. He dislikes his consequences." "Good," I concurred. "But prepare. He may escalate." He did. Dad's lawyer sent threatening letters to my publisher, demanding the book be pulled from shelves. The publisher's legal team refuted every claim, stopping the letters. He tried public relations, telling a local podcast that I'd exaggerated everything, that he'd been a good father, and that I was mentally unstable and seeking attention. The interviewer, who had read my book, directly asked him why he missed my graduation. "I had a work emergency," Dad lied. "Your daughter has screenshots of your text that day. You and your fiancé visited Napa Valley." "Those are fabricated," he blustered. Multiple wedding guests reported receiving them. "Do they all lie?" The interview ended poorly for Dad. Dad became a minor villain in the online discourse about toxic parenting, his name synonymous with narcissistic fathers who abandon their children. I watched it all from a distance, neither celebrating nor mourning. He'd made his choices. These were the natural results. My aunt called in May, her voice tight. "Your dad had a heart attack. He's stable, but it was serious. He's asking for you." My hands went cold. "Will he be okay?" "Probably. The doctors say it was moderate, not severe, but he's scared." I sat with the information for 2 days, talking to Megan, Dr. Hayes, and my sophomore year therapist. Everyone had opinions, but they all boiled down to the same message. Only I could decide what felt right. I visited him on a Sunday afternoon. Dad looked smaller, older, in the hospital bed, and the machines beeping around him reminded him of his mortality. "You came," he said, his voice weak. "No reconciliation here. My aunt called to say you were sick." He nodded slowly. "Fair enough." He stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time in years. Maybe he was. "Your book," he began. "Don't," I waved. "Say sorry only if you mean it. I don't accept excuses." "I'm not making excuses." He shifted in bed, wincing again. "I had no idea how much I'd hurt you." "You knew. You weren't motivated to change." In tears, he said yes. Selfish me. I wanted to be young, desirable, and free. You brought up responsibility, aging, and your mother. I couldn't handle that. Honesty without action was just words, but it was his closest approach yet. What's your request, Dad? No idea. Possible forgiveness. A chance to try again. I'm not prepared, I said. I may never be. He nodded, looking away. I understand. Do you? I asked. Understanding would require therapy, amends, and change. Are you up for that? I don't know if I can. Then we don't have anything else to talk about. I left the hospital feeling empty, not sad, not relieved, just done. Dr. Hayes told me that closure doesn't always come from grand confrontations or perfect apologies, but from realizing you don't need anyone anymore. I didn't need Dad's approval, love, or attention. I'd built a good, full life where I was valued, seen, and supported by people who showed up consistently, not just when it was convenient. Final exams were over, and summer brought paid internships at publishing houses, major magazine essay assignments, and producer interest in adapting my memoir into a limited series. For junior year, Megan and I moved into a tiny two-bedroom near campus with a leaky faucet and poor water pressure, but beautiful morning light from the windows. We painted the walls, hung shelves, and made it ours. After his heart attack, my aunt told me Dad had started therapy, broken up with the 26-year-old from his gym, and joined a support group for estranged parents. I didn't care if it would last or if it was just a performance. Without him, I wrote more, published more, built my career and relationships, and dated Sophie from my editing class, who made me laugh, challenged my ideas, and showed up when she said she would. We were taking things slow, figuring out what we wanted, but it felt healthy. Grandma got sick in October of junior year, just the slow decline of age. I visited every weekend, helping Grandpa care for her and reading my favorite books to her. She died peacefully in October, surrounded by family as she would have wanted. Dad arrived in the back of the funeral, but I didn't acknowledge him. This wasn't about us. Grandpa gave me a letter after everyone left. Made me promise to give it to you later. I opened it in my car. Tears obscured Grandma's beautiful writing. It read, "My darling girl, I'm gone, but I want you to know how proud I am of your writing, success, and strength. You chose yourself when it would have been easier to accept crumbs. You demanded better when everyone told you to be grateful for less. Live bravely, love fiercely, and don't settle for people who don't choose you back. You survived losing your mother and father and built something beautiful from the rubble. Remember, your mother is always with you in your writing, kindness, and support of others. She'd be proud. I love you, Grandma." After 15 minutes of crying in the parking lot, I drove back to campus where Sophie was waiting with takeout, a hug, and no expectations. During the holidays, memoir sales were steady, and my publisher wanted a sequel or a novel. My fictionalized story, changing names and details, but keeping the emotional core, sold for twice as much as the first book. After junior year, I wrote the novel Between Publishing House Shifts about Riley, a girl whose mother dies and whose father chooses his new girlfriend over his daughter. Riley doesn't just expose him at the wedding. She builds a life of art, community, and chosen family to survive without him. Dad wrote to me one last time through Grandpa's letter. Not threatening. He wrote, "I don't deserve forgiveness. My selfishness and neglect destroyed our relationship, but I'm writing to tell you that I'm trying to change. I'm in therapy once a week, working through why I ran from grief instead of facing it. I'm finally understanding how much damage I did. You don't have to care or accept me back. Your book, as painful as it was to read, opened my eyes. You and your mother deserved better, and I'm sorry I couldn't be their father. Hope you're happy, healing, and can think of me without anger someday." That suffices, Dad. I read it twice and put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I'll respond, and we'll have coffee and build something from the ruins. Not today. Finishing a novel, interning, and living were my goals today. Megan and I hosted parties in our apartment to start senior year. I took advanced writing workshops with visiting authors, and Sophie and I got serious about post-graduation plans and our future together. The novel was finished in December and scheduled for publication the following fall. My editor called it devastating and hopeful, which felt right. 3 years after Dad missed my high school graduation, Grandpa, my aunt, Brooke, Megan's family, Sophie, Dr. Caroline Hayes, and Natalie, my agent, attended my college graduation in May. When they called my name, I crossed the stage wearing Mom's pearl necklace and Grandma's watch, carrying the love of women who'd taught me strength. Dad's seat remained empty, but I didn't scan the crowd for him. After the ceremony, we went to Mom's favorite restaurant, where she and I had gone for special occasions. I ordered her usual chicken piccata with extra capers and felt her presence in the laughter, stories, and my chosen family's company. Sophie squeezed my hand under the table. "Good?" she asked. "Yeah," I replied, meaning I'm really good. I saw on Instagram that night that Dad had posted a photo of us from when I was 7, sitting on his shoulders at a carnival. Captioned, "Proud graduate." Wish I could have seen it in person. People who didn't know the full story offered congratulations. Part of me wanted to correct the record, to point out the lie, but I didn't. His need for public validation was no longer my problem. I uploaded my own photo, me in my cap and gown, surrounded by everyone who did show up. Grateful for the people who choose me every day. This degree is yours, too. College friends, memoir readers, strangers who'd followed my story, words of support, pride, and recognition poured in. Chloe's was at the bottom. Your mom would be proud. You did well. I went to bed that night thinking about empty chairs and the people who fill them, graduation programs and wedding ceremonies, and how we tell people they matter. Forgiveness and boundaries and their differences. Dad chose his path, and it led me here, to an unwritten future, to love that showed up, and to a version of myself Mom and Grandma would recognize and celebrate. An empty chair was always just an empty chair. The rest of my life was waiting. Honestly, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Have you ever had to stand up to someone you loved, even when it meant risking everything? I'd really love to hear your stories and thoughts in the comments below. What would you have done in my place?